Ideas for how can you change that? How can you get a larger greater participation? Do you have any thoughts? What would it take? Right, what would it take to get more of the students involved? I'm assuming that most of these activities are extracurricular,
Yeah,
right?
they're usually after school.
Mm-hmm.
No.
See, I have difficulties with that also, because I feel like there's been a shift in just like child raising, where there's this plague of entitlement, and I feel like children feel like you said, children feel like if it's not for me, then what's the point? Or this sense of entitlement, well, I'll do it if there is if I'm getting credit for it. That intrinsic motivation is kind of disappearing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the long term would be, working with parents on how to educate your children at home, just on like these basic morals and values, and this idea of selflessness, and not entirely because you don't want to be a fool either, but so the idea that you have to give back to society, that it's your responsibility as a citizen and as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
But the short-term goal, that's where I'm hitting the same walls, because I feel like if I give a reward of some sort, then I'm just feeding into that same idea of entitlement, and like I'll give it to you if you give me something in return. And everything doesn't have to be that way. So
Right. So it has to somehow be organized in such a way that it is that it doesn't have that kind of carrot, if you will, like on a stick, trying to get them to do something.
It's not to say that all kids are like that. Like the two of you said, that we have the same children. So those children are always going to participate whether the carrot is there or not.
Right, because they're operating from an internal
right, and
motivation.
I think it's because it's also the way they've been brought up, which is why I say that it has to go back way to like the beginning stages. That's a long term.
Right, and I do think that that's part of it, but I think it's also that it's just part of our society, right? So it's more than just the parents, right? I think it's really just, that is our society. It's what you see on TV. It's what's in it for me. There are ways to organize such things that will get more students involved, and that will get most of the students. I think that if it's a school-wide, if it's part of the school's mission, let's say, if it's something that's part of the school culture, I think that you will get more students buying into it. If it's something that a club after school does, and it's optional to join, then you're going to have those students who already have somehow decided that this is something that's valuable and meaningful, right? And they'll keep doing it because they recognize the value in doing it. But otherwise, you have to I think you have to figure out how to get the rest of the students into, help them realize the value in it. And that's the challenge, is figuring out how to do that. How do you organize different kinds of programs, right? Or either clothing drive, food banks, toy drives. How do you organize those things in such a way that's going to help that's going to really get all of the students involved? Any?
You have to use their own social networking, and that's the biggest problem, is that our schools are stuck in the 20th century, and our kids are in the 21st century. They're using Facebook, they're texting each other, and we're telling them, you can't bring your cell phone to school. God forbid you use an iPod. And meanwhile, there's some good stuff on the internet. Podcasts, there's tons of stuff, tons of groups on Facebook, on MySpace that you can join. And what works the best outside of school is usually they can network that way, get something set up on the weekend, and that way it actually becomes cool, you know, like,
Right.
it's more fashionable to do it.
I think that's a great idea, right, using Facebook to organize. So if there is some kind of a drive that's going on, and a certain grade is doing it, or a certain class is doing it, create a group on Facebook.
Because I always like, you know, watch the news and I see these kids in other states creating all these cool things, and then everybody, the whole community getting involved, and I think this can never happen in New York City. A chance that we'll never allow it. But,